On the first day, I created the light and the dark. On the second day, I created the cosmos and all of the planets that revolve in it. I also came up with a novel concept of how my children will become gods and control all of these different worlds. On the fourth day, what did I do on the fourth day? Can't remember. No, I did something. I think I played golf. Hello and welcome to today's episode of The Campaign Creator. Well, it's been about 3 months since we started our journey towards creating our campaign. So we get to the point now where we need to actually pause and reflect. We've run session 0. We've got some feedback. We've refined our transportation ideas. But have we completed and ticked and dotted everything that we need to up until now? So today we're going to look back and see what's been done and what hasn't been done and what still needs to be done. So it is a period of reflection. It is something that we can contemplate on, and I would advise that you get your notes so that you can follow along to check that we have what we need before we move forward into adding details into our world. So before we get any further, this video is sponsored by World Anvil and DungeonFog. World Anvil, the content aggregator. It creates worlds, helps you create your worlds. We've been using it throughout the show. The show is sponsored by them. worldanvil.com. Go and have a look. Now, in the link down below, you will see that there is a 20% off discount code. Great GM. 20% off on several of their subscription options. I would have a very serious look at that if you are wanting to create a very dynamic space. And it is definitely something to have a look at. All of the maps that we use, building maps, come from DungeonFog. They are our other sponsor. They create some amazing city, battle maps. They're called, where they you can create dungeons. You can make, you've seen the channel. DungeonFog, an amazing partner as well. Now, I did want to say a little bit about both of them, because I know when people go, sponsors. What I love about World Anvil and DungeonFog is you've seen their logos plastered all over the place on our channel, and there's a reason for it. They're friends of ours. I have an absolute blast whenever we chat to them. And what I particularly like is it isn't just a case of, here's money, talk about our channel, to make us sound cool. There is definitely a sponsorship that goes on. Somehow I have to make a living, and this is it. But what also happens is they come to me and they say, well, what do you want as a game master? What do you want as a player? What do you think your players want? They engage, and I sit on both of their design teams going, well, this is nice, but I think the players would want that. And they listen, they respond, they add, they question. I question, and it drives our community forward in terms of giving us the tools that we really like using. Do we need any of these tools? No, we could go back to the 1980s with pen and paper, but do we like these tools? Oh boy, yes we do. So that's enough of that. Let's get on with it. Let's have a review of where we are. So let's straight away jump. We're going to go straight to World Anvil, and there you can see it behind me, Uther's Dragons, the world that we are creating. And we've got all these templates and things that we're not going to look at right now. What we're going to do is we're going to go to articles. Articles of Uther's Dragons. Now, these are all of the articles that we have created thus far. There's this quite unique little thing called a word count, which is very powerful as a matter of fact. Why is it powerful? Well, it allows us to look at a glance going, hey, there's only 26 words here for Sluggash. That's that slug-like creature that's feeding off of our nemesis. That's not a lot of detailing. Can we add more? So let's just quickly pop in there. Let's have a view of what that page looks like. Yep, that's it. The slug that is attached to Lady Jakar. So we haven't really developed that very much. Let's go and have a look at Lady Jakar. What have we got there? Okay, we've got a little bit more about her. We filled in her template quite completely. This is the one thing that I really love about the way that World Anvil works, is that I can now jump back to Slagash. If I was in the middle of the game, I would have this open. It gives me all of my information and I can jump around and do other things. So I like that option. So let's go back to looking at our articles. Now, the very first thing that we started with was we obviously had Lady Jakar. We then did our campaign breakdown. We can go back into that if we really want to. I think something that's important is we started to describe the culture of the Utherios hegemony. That's only 330 words. That's not a huge amount of description in my book. Let's have a look and see what's happening there. All right, so we've got a bit of a paragraph or two. We've got some family prefixes and suffixes. Utherii is the language, okay. Some customs, some etiquette rules, some taboos, not a huge amount. So there's potential for us to rework and expand. And this is something that I particularly like doing with my players. So I've got this base. Now I want to add to it. To come back here is really simple. I can simply go here, I can click here, and then I can review, I can add, I can go forward and say, right, actually we want to talk about the ideal. So we have our beauty ideal here, but maybe we want to talk about the ideal relationship. And perhaps this is a polyamorous society where it's multiple partners who come together to form a stronger family unit. Perhaps it's more like the family units that we are accustomed to finding, say, in the Indian culture within the South African context, where it is 3 or 4 or sometimes 5 generations. Let me get that right. So it's great-grandmother, grandmother, mother, son, and son's child. So yes, up to 5 generations living in the same house. And the way that that works is each time a generation is born, a new layer is added to the house. So you end up with these massive sprawling mansions, but they house 20 people or so. What is that? So we can really unpack. Now, this review period is very important for you to go through to check these things and to see where you can add nuance. Once the basic work has been done, you can now really start to flavor it up. Dress code. I'm going to put in here straight away. Cotton and linen kilts for the men. Often dyed in dark natural colors, and then bright colored loose flowing gowns for women not working, for working class. Let's just go back here. For working class men, it's loincloths and sandals. For women, and the spelling will be corrected, for women it's tight fitting tops and form hugging trousers. Skirts are not, I don't think, very practical. I stand to be corrected, having not really worn many skirts ever. I think I was once in a French maid's outfit. Yeah, their photographs, it was a hideous French maid, the ugliest French maid you have ever seen. Nonetheless, these are things that you can add in. You can only add in once you have something to add to. Sandals. Only once you have something to add can you then, once you have the base, can you then start to add it in. So there's a little something that we've done. Now, what I like about reviewing your stuff is that you can come back to it and you can then say, well, let's look at the maps. Let's look at the maps, because we did some cool maps. I think we did some cool maps. Let's go and let's view the map to begin with. Let's view the map to begin with. It's busy loading up, thanks to the internet. And we've got some pins here. Yes, I remember now. Great. I could now look at this and go, you know what? In my session 0, and again, this was part of the review, In my session 0, I had the characters in Gipthos. We explored a little bit about the Griffin transport. That's why we had to update it. They were flying too far. They were carrying too much load. The Griffins were too powerful. We've updated it. Now what I also realize is that these jungles, the Militades jungle, I need to actually unpack that. I need to describe what's happening in there. So I can now start to reflect on how much information I'm putting into my maps, because if I zoom out, that's quite a lot of city information that I've added already. Maybe I want to add more information, but do I want the map to be completely covered over? Well, in one way it could be, because once I click on the city, let's click on the city. So massive dockyards and coastal fisheries make Zolos a major city. I can go and I can edit these markers. I can go back and I can edit the world. I can basically work how I want to, moving around and checking. So again, let's go back to the map options that we have. It's a really easy way as well of reminding ourselves what we need to do, what we need to come back to. I think I've said enough in terms of the benefits of having a look at these maps, having a look at your world, reflecting. I want to go after this very, very briefly. So here's the map again. This is the world map. Haven't done enough work here. How easy is it to see? Yes, in comparison, not a lot of work has been done. I need to unpack much more. Let's talk about Massisio. We'll come to Latarii. We need to look at all of the immediate areas that my players are going to encounter so that we are ready for them on that session 0. Let's go very quickly to our articles again. We don't have a lot. We've got a lot, but we don't have a huge amount. Let's have a look at our gods. Our gods we had to unpack quite carefully. Yeah, there's a decent amount. I added in the cosmological views, so this is how the universe was started. And then here we have the deities. Now, normally these would be the names of gods, but if you recall this particular campaign that I'm building, they are spheres of influence. The spheres are not passive nor sentient. They exist and, if restrained or ignored, tend to build up negative energy that will one day be expressed through some means. Spheres that are unbound, in other words, spheres that are encouraged or actively cherished, tend to expand until they consume the worshipper completely. An unbound worshipper is powerful but also blinded to the other spheres, and therefore will always feel as if they are lacking something. So the sphere idea is this balance idea. We can then go into each of these and say, okay, let's talk about the blood cult, because some of our players were interested in the blood cult. We've got some basic information there that we filled in before. We've got some work here, but not a huge amount of work. And I now realize I forgot to indicate which of the cleric, the name's gone right out of my head as I'm talking about it, domains fall under the blood cult. I've got to go and work that out. So I need to go back and work on this article so that I can add that information in. Again, you don't necessarily want to be caught unawares. So just doing a review can be incredibly powerful. Something to watch out for. So reviewing, I think, is something that we don't do often enough, and you can't review until you know what you have in order to be able to review it. I know it sounds a bit redundant, but certainly it is something to bear in mind. And I think that that is a really powerful tool that you get, whatever world aggregator you're using. If it's pieces of paper and a notebook, I often used to find that I would have notebooks where I would be writing down stuff and then I would finish off and then I'd start another paragraph straight away. And then I'd remember that I wanted to add something to the previous paragraph, but then I couldn't put it there. I'd have to put it somewhere else. This was before the age of computers, of course. And there are many world aggregators out there that you can use. I just find that World Anvil prompts me for stuff. It kind of keeps me on my toes. It says, hey, you still need to do this or you still need to do that. And we're sitting on just under 10,000 words so far on the articles that we've written. We've got a lot more to go. Moving forward now, so we're done with the initial state. We could run games in the setting that we currently have, I feel, with confidence. However, we do need to move forward. We need to add in some new things, and that's what we're going to be looking at over the next 3 months. Is we are going to be looking at how do we add detail, what do we add, and where do we add it to have maximum value on the amount of effort and time that we're putting in, and not to be wasting our time doing things that have no value. And let me give you a hint. It's always player-centric. Until next time, I wish you and yours the very happiest of campaign creation. The fifth day, my back. Yes, the fifth day, I did something to my back which it definitely did not like. It didn't like it at all. And that was bad. The sixth day, oh, I subscribed to that magazine service. Oh, it was a lovely magazine service. Your Galaxy and Beyond. It was all about tips and tricks on designing your own galaxy. I thought very useful, very insightful articles. Seventh day, water. Eighth day, plants first. Ninth day, animals. 11th day, the goblins came along and they made a bell, which was very annoying. So the 12th day, I just wiped them out and I decided no, goblins were out, crabs are in. So crabs the hearing is not there. So crabs are it. No bells at all. Day 400 was an interesting one. That day I will never forget. That was the day that I spilled my tea onto the thing and caused everything to stop working. But it was fixed by day 500.